You've done it! You've got an interview! Amazing! So, today we're going to go through vet school interviews and how they work and tips and tricks and all the stuff you need to know. There are two types of interviews. The first is a panel interview, which is when you sit down and the vet interview people sit over there and you have a conversation and you talk about your work experience and they ask you questions and all that kind of stuff. Essentially, literally just having a conversation. That's all you're doing. You're just having a little chat. Other type of interview is MMI, or multiple mini interview. This kind of interview is used a lot. It's used in Is it used in Oxbridge? I think it can be used in Oxbridge, and it's also used for medics as well. And it's when you have a place, like a room or a table or whatever, and there's a bunch of different interviewers, and you'll move from station to station talking to each of them, and they'll all have a different task for you to do or ask you a different type of question. That you'll have sort of 5 minutes, I think, usually with each station, and you'll hear a little buzzer and they'll tell you to move around to the next one. There's usually 8 or 9 different stations, and then also a rest station, so at some point you'll be able to just take a breather, collect yourself and move on to the next person. And the tasks really range. Some may ask you about work experience, whereas others are more role play. Sort of similar to the situational judgment test, but in real life. It's very odd. And the only real advice, you're not really allowed to talk about interviews in the sense of what you've done, because obviously that would be giving an advantage to the next people. So my only real advice to you would be make sure that you go in confident and calm and collected, and just have confidence that it's all going to go fine, because I think that's really key. It's just being sure of yourself. I think on the whole, panel interviews, they're very different. Again, you have to be very calm and collected and just try and chill, but they're a lot more straightforward than the MMI. I think you literally just go in, you sit down, you start chatting and just try and relax into it. So then, talking about what you have to bring with you, the first is sort of proof of identification, so your passport or a copy of your passport or something like that. I think usually it is your passport, but it will depend on the actual university, so just check. And then a very similar thing with the references. They'll ask you to bring either the original reference that you uploaded online for your application, or they'll ask you to bring a copy, a printed copy that they can then keep for their records. I would also recommend, just because I can get a bit stressed before interviews, and in order just to try and stay calm and zen and as peaceful as you possibly can, I would recommend printing out a map and then sort of working out how to get from wherever you are to the interview. Because it's worst comes to worst, you've arrived there, you're on your own in this new city you've never been to before, your phone's dead, there's no one around, you don't know what to do. You can whip out your map and off you go to your interview and it will all be fine. It's just a backup in case you need it. I mean, all going well, you wouldn't need to use it, but you never know, and it's always handy to have backup on backup on backups so that you're always covered. Saying that, I'd also recommend bringing a portable charger for your phone, just in case you do get stranded somewhere or your train's delayed or something, and you can call up the university and tell them that you're going to be a bit late, or you can call your mum and ask her to help you because you don't know where you are, or you can just look up a map and figure things out on your own, which is probably what I would recommend, rather than calling your parents and getting them involved, because they rarely help the situation. And then before your university interview, I would recommend the night before just reading over how you're getting there, your timings, double checking everything to make sure you're not accidentally going to be late, and just little things to try and make the day go as smoothly as possible. But if there is a last minute change of plans, just take a second, take a deep breath when you actually get to the interview. You don't want to be stressed. You want to just try and stay calm, because that's how you show your best self, is when you're calm and collected, because that's what they want. They want someone who can be very straightforward in a stressful situation and can be very composed, because that's what vets need to be. I mean, veterinary is so stressful, and this is a great way to see if your potential student has a good coping mechanism for stress, because it's a good thing to develop. What you add to your interview is completely your choice. You can go as formal as you like. I mean, I wouldn't recommend a prom dress or anything, but I know guys tend to wear suits. You don't have to wear a tie or anything, and it's up to you. As long as you're formal, you can have a nice jacket, decent trousers, smart shoes, done. Whereas for a girl, once I saw a guy wear a tweed jacket. I only saw one person do that, but if that's what you're into, go for it. And then for girls, you can wear skirts, trousers, jumpsuits, whatever you like, as long as it's, again, formal and that you're comfortable in it. No matter what you wear, make sure you're comfortable. You can wear heels, you can wear flats, whatever you like, but make sure that you feel very presentable and that they're not automatically going to be like, no, you cannot come in here wearing a bodycon, you know. I wore like checkered legging type things and a sort of warm jumper because during interviews it's, you know, winter, it can be quite cold. And then again, comfortable shoes because you'll be walking from your interview to the, like I walked from the train station to my interview location and back again. So it can be a lot of walking. So make sure you're comfortable. Just make sure you feel good because feeling good makes you feel confident and that is how you want to be. You don't want to be stressing over what you're wearing and just adding more things to think about in the situation because you don't need it. You do not need more things to think about. You just want to get to the interview, talk about your work experience and what you've done and why you want to be a vet and go. That's it. That's all you should be thinking about. You shouldn't be thinking about why you're wearing heels when you knew you had to walk up a giant hill. I once did a practice interview with a medic. She wasn't a vet, but she was a medic, but she was an actual university interviewer. And she said that she wouldn't recommend wearing jewellery because her reasoning was like she didn't think it looked very professional in the sense of as a vet or a medic you wouldn't be wearing that kind of thing on a day-to-day, like a daily basis. You'd have your hair back, wouldn't be wearing rings and jewellery and everything just because you can't wear that in your surgery. She liked to see students look like literally an hour later they could start the job there and then. I think that was what she was going for and I personally just took her advice and went with it because it wouldn't hurt. But yeah, it's completely up to you. I don't think they'll penalise you for wearing rings or earrings or whatever. It's your choice. And I've now passed the information on to you, so you can do with it what you like. I also chose to go to my interviews on my own, i.e. I just like up and left. I didn't take my parents or grandparents with me. I did this for like multiple reasons. I think the first was because I wanted to go to the university on my own and experience it by myself and not with someone. It made me feel more grown up. It made me feel like an actual student and not just some like year 11 who needs her mum with her all the time. And then the other thing was that it meant that when I'm actually at the interview I felt more comfortable talking to people because I knew that especially if there was someone else there on their own, we'd both be very nervous and you tend to gravitate towards each other a little bit more compared to when you're with your parents and you're just sitting with them for the whole time and you can just chat with them and stay in your own little bubble. It's quite nice just to sort of be on your own and be able to talk to people and join in conversations and all that sort of thing. You're not really tied back by anyone. However, if you choose not to bring a parent, make sure that you haven't got like a massive heavy bag with you because you may not be able to take it into the interview or whatever. You just never know. Try and keep everything quite compact. I mean, at one interview, I started talking to this girl and she was reading articles, like she was like speed cramming all the research she'd done. And she was reading like this article on TB and I realised that I hadn't gone over TB in ages and I was like, please just like scream stuff at me, and she did. Like it wasn't even brought up in the interview, but it made me feel better knowing that I could go in and at least I knew about TB. And then it also helped her like memorise it and go through it in her head. And like I'm the kind of person who likes sort of working in teams, so it was quite a useful thing for me to do because I was able to meet someone who I could potentially be on the course with, and I also like just met someone in general, like another vet person. Even if she does go to another university, I had a new contact, and it's just nice to talk to people. I think it calms me down. Like literally in one of the interviews, I was sitting at the little rest station, and it was the first station I was on. So everyone else was off and talking to interviewers, and I was just sitting there, and I was so nervous. And there was a lady behind me who was like helping organise the day, and I literally just turned around and started talking to her. I was like, I don't want to sit here for the next 5 minutes just thinking through things because I'll just work myself up. So can I just have a conversation with you? And we had a lovely conversation about how she lived in the area for ages, and she had like a horse and stuff. Lovely, but yeah. I found talking to people helped, so I would recommend that. So let's talk about the actual interview. Like you are in the room or at the station with the interviewer and you're about to start. Your 5 minutes is gone or your 30 minutes is gone. You have to do something. First thing I would say to do is introduce yourself. Like actually formally like shake their hands. Saying that, I don't know if you can do that with Corona anymore. Give them the elbow bump. There you go. You can do that. That's what you have to do now, I suppose. But anyway, in a normal situation, give them a handshake and ask them how they are. Well, no, introduce yourself, give them your name, and then they'll explain what the activity is or what you have to do and try and ease you into it a little bit. And then off you go. Answer their questions. Try and really really deepen what you're saying. Like, don't just say, "Oh, I saw a cat spay." Like, say, "I saw a cat spay at a private practice, and they used a technique I hadn't seen before," or "It was the first time I saw this particular technique, and it interested me that this happened," or etc. Just really try and share as much information as possible. Obviously, not dragging it out too much because that's pointless, but really try and seem excited about what you're saying. There's nothing more boring for this poor interviewer who has to interview like 30 people just to have someone like explain in rubbish detail like the basics of a cat spay. They know it, it's their job. They want to know, they want to learn what was interesting to you, like why was what you saw so important. And when you're done, again, shake their hand, say thank you very much for interviewing me, or it's really lovely to meet you, or something like that. I don't know. But again, these people have like taken the time out to interview you, whether they're being paid or not, they still have, and it's nice for them to feel a bit appreciated because, you know, especially if they've been really nice and they've really eased you into it, it's always good to sort of show that appreciation for their work. At some stations or at some points during your interview, you may be given a bit of a challenge, and my advice during those sort of challenges is that I would recommend talking through what you see. Like Oxbridge, if any of you are going for Oxbridge, it's kind of similar in the sense of they'll tell you to do something or tell you to explain something, and they don't want you just to sit there and just work it out in your head. They want you to explain step by step what you're doing, how you think things through, just so they can see that you can work things out by yourself and you don't have to be spoon-fed every single piece of information. And then at the end of your panel interview, you may be asked if you have a question. I would personally recommend to try and have a question ready for that situation, because again, I think it reflects quite well on the student if they have a very intellectual question to ask at the end of an interview, because it shows that you're not just, you know, you're done, you want to leave and run away, that you want to take the opportunity to explore a bit more about veterinary. You know, it's just one of those things. I had a question and I was so lucky because the question that I had, I sort of thought of it the day before, and I was genuinely interested in the answer, and I couldn't find it on the internet. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll ask this. And the guy who interviewed me, or at least one of the people who interviewed me, was like a reproduction lecturer, and the question was on reproduction, so it just worked out really well, and I'm really happy I did it because he seemed quite happy that I had a question to ask that he could answer well. So yeah, I would recommend it. Overall, interviews can be scary and they can be nerve-wracking and intimidating, and that is absolutely fine to be nervous because everyone's going to be nervous, especially if it's your like first interview. But that being said, you just got to go in with the mindset that you deserve it, you know? Like, you've been given an interview after all that massive long process. This university has seen what you've done and thought, we would like to have this student, we want to give this student an opportunity to get a place. Like, we're interested in you. And that's what you need to tell yourself of, because often when you're in that sort of work experience stage, it feels that actually becoming a vet is quite unattainable, or it feels like it's sort of some distant dream that probably won't happen. So I think it's a really nice compliment to be given an interview and be essentially given the time of day by these universities. So take that, like, use that to sort of build yourself up. Like, you deserve that space, you know, or at least like trick yourself into showing confidence, because that's what confidence is. As long as everyone else thinks you're confident, it's fine. It doesn't matter if you are or not. So if you're preparing for an interview, good luck. Well done on getting it. You've done really well. If you're not at that stage quite yet, I hope it all goes well for you and that you do get an interview. thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it useful, obviously. And if you have any questions or tips or anything, leave them in the comments because I would love to see what you think. See you in the next one.